it's not massive. It's 13 miles across, that's the length, and then the width is 8 miles. The circumference is about 33 miles, so it's not that big. The depth, the deepest place is 140 feet. So still, it's not the deepest lake. So you might wonder, how on earth would you get storms here? Because at the moment it looks quite calm, doesn't it? Well, you do get storms when the wind sort of travels down the hills. It creates quite big waves here, and in 1992 the waves were so big that they damaged parts of downtown Tiberias. So you do get quite big storms here. So we're going to read about Jesus stilling the storm, I thought. That would be appropriate, wouldn't it? So, in the Gospel of Mark, it says that that day when evening came, he said to his disciples, "Let us go over to the other side." Leaving the crowd behind, they took him along just as he was in the boat. There were also other boats with him. A furious squall came up, and the waves broke over the boat, so that it was nearly swamped. Jesus was in the stern, sleeping on a cushion, maybe on a stern like this. Sleeping on a cushion. The disciples woke him and said to him, "Teacher, don't you care if we drown?" He got up, rebuked the wind, and said to the waves, "Quiet, be still." The wind died down, and it was completely calm. He said to his disciples, "Why are you so afraid? Do you still have no faith?" They were terrified and asked each other, "Who is this? Even the wind and the waves obey him." They'd been with Jesus for just a little while, and they see his great power. And what is their reaction? They're terrified. At first they were terrified of the storm, but these were experienced fishermen. They'd have been traveling these waters for all of their lives, and yet this storm was freaking them out. So it's probably one of the worst kinds you get here. And yet by the end of it, it's Jesus they're afraid of because of his great power. Isn't it amazing that God became man and he was here? He travelled these waters. He travelled to Capernaum, where we're heading now. Capernaum, that we're heading to, was a fishing village about the size of 1,500, 2,000 people. It's not massive. There were loads of these fishing villages around the lake. In the first century there were around 260 boats travelling these waters a day. There were 16 big harbours. So it's quite a traffic lake, quite a widely trafficked lake with lots of commerce and such. And it was on this lake as well where Jesus walked on the water. So why don't we read that as well, if I can just find it. There we go. So reading from the Gospel of Matthew. Immediately, Jesus made the disciples get into the boat and go on ahead of him to the other side while he dismissed the crowd. He's just fed the 5,000. So, after he had dismissed them, he went up on a mountainside by himself to pray. Later that night, he was there alone, and the boat was already a considerable distance from land, buffeted by the waves because the wind was against it. Shortly before dawn, Jesus went out to them, walking on the lake. When the disciples saw him walking on the lake, they were terrified. "It's a ghost," they said, and cried out in fear. But Jesus immediately said to them, "Take courage, it is I, don't be afraid." "Lord, if it's you," Peter replied, "tell me to come to you on the water." "Come," he said. Then Peter got out of the boat, walked on the water, and came towards Jesus. But when he saw the wind, he was afraid, and beginning to sink, cried out, "Lord, save me." Immediately, Jesus reached out his hand and caught him. "You of little faith," he said, "why did you doubt?" And when they climbed into the boat, the wind died down. Then those who were in the boat worshipped him, saying, truly, you are the Son of God. When they had crossed over, they landed at Gennesaret. All the way through the Gospels, the Gospel writers refer to this body of water as a sea. There's one exception, Luke, and he has probably travelled a lot more than the other Gospel writers, so actually refers to this as the Lake of Galilee, or the Lake of Gennesaret. I'll leave it to you to decide what you think it is.
Was it a natural storm, what do you think? Was it a natural storm?
Was it a natural storm? That's a very good question. I'd say probably. But Jesus probably knew that he was sending them out into a storm.
Why did he rebuke it?
Why did he rebuke the wind and the waves? I think to show his power.
Yeah.
To show his disciples who he is.
Why would he rebuke it if it was natural? Why would he rebuke it if it was natural?
Well, they were scared, weren't they?
Because it was still, because they were scared and because it was still a storm.
Yeah, he addressed their fears.
Yeah.
He rebuked the wind and the waves. And just
He
asked
did
them
rebuke
why.
the wind and the waves. He said, "Be still, be quiet."
Perhaps it wasn't so natural. Perhaps it wasn't as natural as...
Well, I think he was behind it. So it's supernatural in that sense. He knew he was sending them out into a storm. But yeah, it might have been.